doing some of the same stuff we're doing all around the country, and they are in Cincinnati, Ohio. So welcome, Jim Corbett. Give him a hand.
Wow. We're in the right place. You know what I mean.
Yes, sir. Thank you, Jesus.
When the Holy Spirit shows up in a house, it brings tears to my eyes and peace to my soul. Thank you. You've blessed us. Thank you, Pastor Paul and Paula, for having the confidence to allow us 30 minutes or so with God's army.
Amen.
I consider it a great privilege, and I do not take it lightly. Thank you. Lieutenant Tim, Ginger, Lois. Lieutenant Tim, thank you for vouching for us. I'm sure you did. So if this doesn't go really, really great, we can just find Tim when it's over, okay? You know, Lieutenant Tim came with Bernie and I over twice, to West Africa, Nigeria, to help us advance the concept of corrections in the penal system, the prison systems in Nigeria. There's just something about people in uniform that open doors that just a layperson can't. We talked and we were encouraging, but when Lieutenant Tim showed up with his uniform and the patches, you know, in football it's trophies. In correction, it's patches. It's like the DCP, the warden, just locked right into Lieutenant Tim, and those correction facilities are now completely open to our ambassadors there. Thank you, sir. Thank you. Thank you, Bernie, for traveling down here to see Susan and I, and you are my buddy. I'll tell you, this is a brother right here. We've been to Nigeria, gosh, I don't know, 10 times, 12 times. I have never met a human being in my life that is easier to travel with than Bernie Torrance. Whatever you want to do, whenever you want to do it, Bernie's right there. Bless you, sir. Thank you. And I want to thank my wife, Susan, who truthfully, without my wife's love and perseverance for God's people, our ministry, Glory to God International Ministries, would not even exist. Because 20 years ago, in 2002, when we met Desmond and Evelyn Cole, who were already in their mid-70s at the time, talking about going to Nigeria to pastor pastors and do marriage counseling, Susan, on our way home, goes, I think we should help them. And I'm driving along, you know, Ken and Barbie, for those of you who are old enough to remember the Ken and Barbie dolls. We're like always into our hairspray and everything, and, you know, I'm driving along going, Ken and Barbie go to Nigeria. This is going to work real well. So, of course, I'm thinking she's like, we'll just send them a check, you know, or something. And I said, yeah, we'll make a donation. She goes, no, I think we should do more. And I'm thinking, well, okay, how about if we cut their grass? She said, no, you know, I was really kind of thinking we'd go to Nigeria. And I'm like, oh, sweetie, the bugs are on steroids there. And I don't even like to get dirty. I'm the guy that took showers at halftime. I mean, really. So, of course, ladies, 7 months to the day, we're on the plane going to Nigeria. Amen? That was 20 years ago. Had it not been for your perseverance and your love, I would have missed out on one of the greatest life experiences I've ever had. So thank you, the love of my life. And thank you, all of you ladies who know how to help us make good decisions. Amen? Amen. Well, my assignment today is tone. Tone. The character, strength, and attitude of a person, place, or situation. Tone. What is my tone? What is your tone? What is the universal tone of the body of Christ? Does it sync up with the tone of the kingdom of God? You see, in Old Testament times, God called on his prophets to set the tone through the warnings that they gave to God's people. A few examples. Joel, of locust infestation, unless God's people would turn back to God. Hosea, of Assyrian conquest, unless God's people would turn back to God. Hosea and Amos, of judgment for a broken covenant, just to mention 3 of the 12 minor prophets. Every minor prophet had the same theme. Unless God's people turn back to God, that he may heal and restore. Sound familiar? Our prophets are still speaking today. However, the difference today, I propose, God is calling on a priesthood, not exclusively on prophets alone. Rather, a royal priesthood. 1 Peter 2:9 reads in King James this way, "But you are a chosen generation, a royal priesthood, a holy nation, his own special people, that we may proclaim the praises of him who called us out of darkness into his marvelous light." You are a chosen generation, a royal priesthood, a holy nation, his own people, who proclaim the praises of him who called us out of darkness into his marvelous light. That's who you are.
Yes.
That is who you are.
Amen.
I know many times we don't feel like it, or act like it, or see miraculous signs of it. I know that. But God's plan A for this world at this time, saints, it's you. You and me and us. We are God's plan A.
All right.
And saints, there is no plan B.
Come on.
There is no plan B. Why? Because we don't need it. That's why. We don't need a plan B. When God speaks, who can hinder? You're a royal priesthood, a chosen generation. You are a holy house of God. There is no plan B because we don't need it.
Thank you, Lord.
When God speaks, who can hinder? God is still the miracle maker.
All right.
And always will be.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
But how? How does this happen? I believe it's by discovering the tone of the kingdom of God and syncing our character, strength, and attitude to it. Linking our tone to the tone of the kingdom is your spiritual destiny.
All right.
Just as in the prophets' days, the challenge is how to get God's message of love in us and out to people not inclined to listen. That's the challenge. It's hard to sell something that you don't believe in. That message has to get in us by syncing our tone to the tone of the kingdom. Our tone is the answer. Can you go to that third slide with the young ladies? There you go. That's great. Here's a little bit of a summary of how we came about this concept of tone. In 2016, I met Comfort and Mercy for the first time. The young ladies you see in the slide here. Their story revealed the kingdom tone to us. Comfort, the taller lady, is our interpreter in this scene. Mercy is the young lady who had just arrived at the internally displaced persons camp in Benin City, Nigeria, which Tim and Bernie have been on site with me in. This was 2 weeks after Mercy had just arrived from the state of Borno, which is a northeast corner of Nigeria. Boko Haram had been consistently attacking rural villages, kidnapping women, young boys and girls, selling them into sex slavery or indentured servants with other Muslim families. The story is this. Susan and I were hearing this via pastoral relationships who served the IDP camp. We started funding a little bit of medicines and furniture making, but we were very cautious because this region of the world is very corrupt. We'd never been there. This picture is the very first time in 2016 that I ever laid eyes on them or the camp. And the directors of the camp asked me, "What would you like to do?" I said, I think what would be great is after we greet the children and pray for them, thinking there were 200 children there. That was what was reported to us. That then we would like to maybe talk to a few select children and find out a little bit more about their story. Our role as Glory to God International Ministries is to do due diligence on the ministries we support. We support ministries that support widows, orphans, prisoners, and sojourners. We're not the ministry. We support the ministry. And we do the due diligence, making sure that the money that people give is not buying new Mercedes for the directors. A little harder than it sounds, but we're doing a really good job at it. So we go to the palm tree forest lining. If you walk across this long sandy soccer field area where kids, thinking 200 kids are going to come meet us, and there's all of these eyes coming out of that palm forest. And we have to keep backing up. There's so many children coming. After they all come out, I looked at the director and I said, "I thought there was 200 children here." He says, "There's now 1,350. That was in 2016. There's 3,700 children on the property today. This is one of 5 IDP camps in Nigeria with 25,000 children on these camps. Every one of these children's parents have been murdered. Their entire family has been murdered. Their villages have been totally destroyed. And there is literally no one for them to go back to. I'm not saying this to sort of dramatize this. I'm saying this so that you'll listen with a spiritual ear and see what God can do in a life. This little girl, after we did our greeting, we sat under those palm trees, nice and cool. She began, through her interpreter, Comfort, because she spoke in Hausa language. She started to tell her story. She was in her hut with her mom and grandfather, and they heard these shots coming. Dirt roads going out to a bigger dirt road. She's down into the jungle now. Most of the villages are 4 or 5 miles deep into the jungle. They'd never heard anything like rushing pickup trucks or rapid fire. The only things they've ever heard were hunters that might use arrows or maybe have a shotgun, but to hear multiple gunshots, it was just foreign. So everyone came out of their huts just kind of like checking it out. And here comes Boko Haram. They pulled her grandfather out into the street, maimed him intentionally so that they would cast fear into the village. They kidnapped Mercy and her mother and every young girl and boy that they could get, because that's really why they're there. That's where the money is. And the children would run into the jungles. But Mercy and her mother were taken out of the camp, driven for hours into the jungle of Niger and Cameroon, which borders Nigeria, then made to walk into a compound in the forest. The first day they were there, they were allowed to sleep together outside, she and her mother. The next day, after Muslim prayer, where the Muslim faced the wall, a big bunch of trucks came in, took selected women, young boys, off the camp. Mercy's mom was wise and strong. And we have brought some complimentary books that share in more detail so you will understand what I'm saying. But Mercy's mother knew what was going on. They were wise enough to know that these children were never coming back if they ever left. So on the third day, when Mercy was working with her mom doing chores, Mercy's mom realized that the Muslims pray every day, same time, and then the trucks come right after prayer. And the way this compound was configured, big high wall, but there was a building in the corner, and the Boko Haram people had stacked logs behind the building for fire. And so Mercy's mother had put one of the logs up on the wall. And when the Muslims went to prayer, she grabbed her daughter's hand and she said, "Sweetie, this is our only chance to save your life." She shimmied her daughter up that log, pushed her over the compound wall. And as Mercy tells it, she landed on her side, she rolled over on her back, saw her mother weeping over that compound wall. As a father and a grandfather, I can't imagine. Mercy's mother said, "Run, run, Mercy, run. My love will carry you through." And she ran. She ran, she hid in the bush, she ran. She's a village girl. She knew if she found water, she could eventually find another village. She spent 3 nights in the jungle. Finally came upon a village in Borno, Nigeria, where she was too afraid to engage with the people, so she stayed outside the village, eating out of the compost pit, drinking dew off of mango leaves. But the ladies of the village saw she was there. And these wonderful women started to befriend Mercy, took her some rice, took her some water, started to find out what was going on. At that time, we had begun helping pastors with materials go into the Northeast with little scooters and preach the gospel. Once a pastor was ordained, they would get a backpack, a little bit of money, and up into Bordeaux they would go, sometimes 3 villages on a Sunday, talking to everybody about the Lord. So when these ladies found out what happened, they told our pastor, one of the pastors that we supported. He rode his bike up to where her town was, where her village was. He came back and said, no one knows where your mother is. Your grandfather is dead. Your hut is gone. Totally destroyed, the whole village. There's nobody there. 3,700 children. Same story. 25,000 children just in Nigeria. Nigeria is about the size of Ohio. 235 million human beings live in Nigeria, just to give you a little bit of context. So they're telling this story, and I'm just, like I went there to do my mathematical due diligence. Is anybody stealing money? And I'm confronted with this incredible witness of perseverance of this young girl and her mother. I think the part that got me the most was the heart of the mother to actually do that, knowing what was going to happen to her, knowing what was going to happen. So Mercy, the pastor came back and told Mercy, listen, some of the missionaries from America have helped us with some monies, and I would like to offer to you an opportunity to go to the IDP camp in Benin City, Nigeria. We will buy you a ticket on a bus, because there were already dozens of children in this region that had all been there. She wanted to stay where she was because it was more familiar, but they were poor too. And so she acquiesced and said, okay, I will go. And she traveled down. As I'm speaking to her here, she had been on the campground for 2 days. Every child, when they arrive, their heads shaved because they have lice, they're dehydrated, they're frightened. Mercy didn't even walk for the first week. She crawled. She was traumatized. So as I'm hearing this, and it's all coming from comfort, I don't know, my mouth was so wide open, flies could have made camp in there, I think. But then this is what I heard, saints. This is what I heard from comfort after Mercy spoke. She said, Big Weebo, white man, there are two things that we insist upon in this camp. One, we refuse to be victims. We rather are intentionally grateful for our life. We refuse to be victims. Can you imagine? We are intentionally grateful for our life. Number two, every child in this camp is willing to forgive. Because we don't want to go around with a pocket full of resentment rocks that tether us to the past. The big football player lost it. I am not kidding you. I was just bawling. Intentionally grateful, willing to forgive the heinous acts that had happened to you. I said, okay, Comfort, our interpreter, that's amazing to me. And we rounded the meeting up. As a team, we talked about what we had heard. I mean, really, all the way home, the hour-and-a-half drive back to Benin City was almost dead silence. Not even the Nigerians could believe what we had just heard. It just pierced my personal heart. I came home, I was stunned. But it was easier, to help, to dig into how to help with the physical needs. How do we raise money for education, et cetera, than to heal? Their willingness to forgive didn't find its way into me. It's easier to hate. And there I was, 2016. I knew I'd be going back. So in 2017, 2018, 2019, we would go back, we would see what was needed, and we would try to make provision, almost always through a third party, never leaving money with the directors because it would always cause some kind of corruption. So we found out that Mercy was really not fed well. So we started getting, through a third party, nutrition supplements and things like that. Comfort needed a little help with school, so we hired a tutor to come in and tutor anyone who wants to know about computers, because that was her area. So we were very careful not to set them aside as being sponsored by missionaries, and it worked beautifully. They've developed so beautifully well. So 2020, I arrive, and it's like any other trip, we get there, but here comes Mercy. Little Mercy comes running up to our Toyota Highlander. She's smiling. She had cried herself to sleep every night for 4 years. Not so much because of the trauma of Boko Haram. Her desire to have willingness to forgive had alleviated some of that. She was crying herself to sleep because she didn't know where her mother was. Every night, she and Comfort, now Comfort's her adopted sister now. Her interpreter became her big sister. Cry herself to sleep. So here she is standing there with her only dress and her sandals on, because all the kids either wear flip-flops or just bare feet. And she was ready to start talking. I was just blown away. So she grabbed my hand, and we went right over to the palm forest where we always go. We sat down in a little plastic chair, and I started asking her, like, how's school going? Oh, I'm following Comfort, and she's teaching me so many things. And are you eating? Yes, oh, yes, the food's been great. The food's been great. Can you imagine feeding 3,700 kids rice and beans twice a day? She says, the food is great. Not a complaint. Not a complaint. Here comes Comfort. Comfort comes over, sits down with us. She says, Big Weebo, white man, have you noticed a difference in Mercy? I said, oh, yeah, and I'm so grateful. I said, what's going on? She looked over at Mercy. She says, can we tell him the story? And Mercy was very excited to do that. And so Comfort began to tell us the story. 2 weeks earlier, before we had gotten there, the directors got a call from a lady who said she was Mercy's mother. And she had escaped from her captors in the north. She had been badly beaten and raped, and she did not have long to live. And all she wanted to do was see her daughter again. The directors were very careful, didn't even mention that she was there, but agreed to meet her outside the city where she was staying. And sure enough, she brought people with her. She had enough evidence that they were convinced that was Mercy's mom. And they were also convinced that she was in bad physical shape. So we had always left a little bit of money there in case anybody gets sick, use this to get them some medicine or whatever. And they got her admitted in Benin Hospital. This was on a Friday. So on Friday morning, Mercy's mom went to the hospital, and they had a meeting with Mercy, and they explained to her. They said, we know that this is your mom. She has escaped from her captors. She's physically in bad shape, and they don't really feel like she's going to live long, but she wants to be with you. And of course, Mercy was just like, let's go. So we packed up her little dress and her sandals, and off to the hospital we go. We had arranged for the hospital to allow her to stay with her mother that Friday night. They slept together, just like they did the first night. She would just tap her hand and wait for her mother to come out of medication, and they would have conversation. They would hug and just love on each other. They slept together in that hospital bed. The next day, we weren't there, but the next day she had 2 wonderful conversations with her mother, damping her forehead with water. And when she would awaken, she would have these wonderful conversations. 4 o'clock in the afternoon, Mercy's mother died. We get a call from the hospital. We come to get her. Mercy was very calm, very quiet, seemed like at peace. So, in those situations, saints, you've all been there, you don't know what to say. there isn't anything you can say, really. Your presence is more valuable than anything else. So they just, as they tell the story, they just head back. The first night they were there, Comfort noticed Mercy didn't cry. The second night, same thing. So Comfort starts talking to the director saying, Mercy just seems different, like she's not crying anymore. And they said, yeah, she's way more animated now than she's ever been engaging in class. So they sat down with her and they asked her, are you okay? So I'm just going to read for you a little bit out of the book, which again is a gift to you if you would like it. If you would like to learn more about the tone, where it came from, what it can do in your life, there are complimentary books on the table in the back. And anyone who would prefer digital, you can go to our website, /tone. It's portable and printable. It's a gift. As Bernie and I learned in Nigeria, you can't buy a gift. Amen? So here's Mercy's words 2 days after she was back in the camp. Once back in the camp, Comfort asked Mercy if she was okay. To which she replied, yes, my big sister, thank you. Comfort continued. The interpreter continued. We slept well through the night and the next. I noticed Mercy did not cry herself to sleep either night. Others also noticed Mercy was different. The girls' director and I sat with Mercy and asked Mercy, you haven't cried since you've been back. Is everything okay? Mercy replied, I won't be crying any longer because now I know where my mother is. I told her all about Jesus, and she believed and accepted him out loud to me. My mother isn't dead. She's sleeping peacefully until the day we shall be together forever in eternity. Hope. Hope is a desire for a certain thing to happen or a feeling of trust. Psalm 37:4 reads this way, delight yourself also in the Lord, and he shall give you the desire of your heart. You see, saints, as compelling as the story is, as compelling as this story really is, our hope is that we go beyond the characters to a place of awe and reverence of our God. You see, God is still in the miracle business. Amen. Never left. Right. Only a miracle put those people back together in that hospital. Only a miracle gave Mercy the desire of her heart and her mother's heart. Only your God. You are a chosen people. And God loves you so very much. That is our tone of trust. Well, here is Mercy and Comfort today. September 2022. 2 months ago. Mercy's done caught up with Comfort. That's what nutrition can do for you. Comfort is a second-year law student at Benin University. Mercy is going to be going into her senior year of high school. Mercy's goal is to go to Benin University and be a lawyer like her big sister. Can you feel the tone in that picture? That's your God. That's your God. That's who you are. True restoration results from being molded by the word within rather than the world without. As far back as the chastening of the exile, most of God's returning people became enmeshed once again in the affairs of the world and neglected their relationship with Him. For some, the problem was external religiosity without internal reality. For others, the problem was being more influenced by culture than by God's word. That's our issue today.
Amen.
That's our culture's issue today. God has always found a remnant. God has always found a remnant, and He is looking right now at you. Amen. A faithful minority who love Him enough to stand against the tide of the world system and the ways of the flesh. God has always provided a remnant. Is that you? Is that you? Sink your tone to that of the kingdom and be part of the royal priesthood, the remnant army, God seeking for a time such as this. Saints, very soon, God will thresh the fields, having allowed the tares to grow amongst the wheat. The global tares are now top-heavy and are ready to fall. God's remnant army, you, the royal priesthood, will stand tall as the tares fall. God's call to us is the tone of the kingdom. My challenge to you today is simply this. Each day, repeat after me, I will be intentionally grateful. It's a spiritual necessity. Willing to forgive. Empty my pocket of all the resentment rocks. Eternally hopeful. Christ in you is the hope of glory. Christ is in you. No plan B. And finally, trusting in the Lord. Saints, trust is the tone of the kingdom of God. The tone book is our gift to you and anyone who desires to sync their tone to God's remnant army. Please join us today. It's game time. Let's get ready. Pastor.
Thank you, Jesus. Stand with me if you would. Let's just give the Lord thanks for this word that has gone forth today. I'm telling you, I want to receive it. I want to respond appropriately to what has landed on my ears and in my heart. Father, we bless you. We love you. Thank you, Lord. Thank you, Lord, that I have hope. Thank you, Lord, that I can put my trust in you. I want to give you an opportunity to respond in the way that would make a statement for your tomorrows. give a few minutes of time for you to step out of your seat. It's a small symbol, but it is powerful when you step out in faith and say, I'm going to trust. I'm going to be the army. I'm going to be the remnant. I'm going to intentionally be grateful. What a powerful message. What a wonderful word that we can grab onto. And every morning, just check our tone. Would you step out? Come onto this altar. Maybe somebody here, you felt a tug on your heart to make a new commitment to ministry. Make a new commitment to what God has called you to do. God has placed in this house apostles, prophets, evangelists, pastors, and teachers for the equipping of the saints, for the work of the ministry. Be the army. Are you going to be the army? Are you going to trust? Are you going to find a tone that syncs with the tone of the kingdom of God? His kingdom is at hand. His kingdom come. His will be done in this house as it is in heaven. His will be done in Lancaster as it is in heaven. His will be done in Fairfield County, in the surrounding counties, and in Ohio and America and around the world, in the countries that we can't even name today. May His kingdom come and His will be done in your home and in your heart. Let's sing.